This is the testimony that could shatter the elite. Ghislaine Maxwell, the convicted accomplice to Jeffrey Epstein, is being brought before Congress. On February 9th, she will testify before the U.S. House Oversight Committee. This isn't just about one woman's crimes. This is about a network. This is about power. This is about who knew what and when. The Trump administration's Justice Department is facilitating this unprecedented move. Some say this is the final reckoning for a global sex trafficking ring that reached the highest levels. Others warn it's a political circus designed to smear enemies. Who's right? The answers could be explosive. To understand why this February 9th hearing is a seismic event, we need to rewind. Ghislaine Maxwell, the British socialite and daughter of disgraced media mogul Robert Maxwell, was convicted in December 2021. Her crimes: conspiracy to entice minors to travel for illegal sex acts, conspiracy to transport a minor for criminal sexual activity, sex trafficking of a minor, and related counts. She was sentenced to 20 years in prison. Her partner in crime, financier Jeffrey Epstein, died by suicide in his jail cell in 2019 while awaiting his own trial. For years, the case has been a black hole of speculation, centered on Epstein's infamous Little Black Book and his private island, a who's who of billionaires, politicians, academics, and royalty. The central haunting question has always been, who else was involved? Maxwell, as Epstein's primary recruiter and manager, is the keeper of those secrets. Her silence, maintained throughout her trial and incarceration, has been a wall. Now, under the direction of the Republican-led House Oversight Committee in the Trump administration's first full year, that wall is being breached. This isn't a trial, she's already convicted. This is a congressional investigation with subpoena power, seeking answers about the scale of the conspiracy and potential failures in justice. The timing is critical. With a new administration in Washington, there is a declared focus on dismantling deep state, corruption, and elite impunity. This hearing is being framed as a direct assault on that impunity. The central tension is clear. Is this a genuine pursuit of justice for victims, or a politically weaponized spectacle? Supporters of this hearing argue it is a long overdue moment of accountability and transparency. Proponents point out that for the victims, justice has been incomplete. Epstein is dead. Maxwell is in prison, but the full architecture of the abuse network remains shrouded. This testimony, they argue, is for them. The Oversight Committee, under its mandate to investigate any matter, has a duty to uncover whether Epstein's operation was enabled by systemic failures within government agencies, the justice system, or law enforcement. Were there cover-ups? Did powerful individuals receive preferential treatment? This hearing is the tool to find out. Officials backing the move suggest Maxwell's testimony is the key to a larger map. They argue she can identify other participants, clarify the purpose of the mysterious financial flows, like the $1 million transferred from Epstein-controlled accounts or the $750,000 payments to unnamed associates. She can explain the logistics, the private flights, the security, the silence. This isn't just about past crimes, it's about ensuring such a network can never operate again. Furthermore, supporters highlight the international angle. Epstein and Maxwell were global operators. Her testimony could shed light on foreign entanglements and the use of offshore havens. They point to the recent life sentence for Tetsuya Yamagami, the assassin of former Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, as evidence that societies are demanding ultimate accountability for grave crimes. Why should a sex trafficking enabler be any different? The argument is simple: sunlight is the best disinfectant. Bring every detail into the open, no matter how ugly, no matter whose name is mentioned. Only then can the victims truly begin to heal and the system be cleansed. But wait, there's another side to this story. Critics, however, see it differently. They view this hearing with deep skepticism, calling it a politically motivated sham that risks re-traumatizing victims for partisan gain. Opponents counter that Ghislaine Maxwell is a convicted felon and a proven liar. Her credibility is zero. What value does testimony from such a source truly have, especially without the cross-examination of a trial? They fear it will devolve into a platform for unsubstantiated allegations and conspiracy theories, a spectacle that drowns out facts in a flood of sensationalism. Skeptics point out the timing and the committee's composition. With a presidential election cycle always on the horizon, they ask, is this about justice or about creating damaging headlines against political opponents? The phrase witch hunt is being used. They argue that any legitimate investigative leads should be pursued by the Justice Department and the FBI, not a politically charged congressional committee, where grandstanding for cameras often trumps sober fact-finding. Furthermore, critics warn of the legal and ethical morass. Maxwell's lawyers will certainly constrain her testimony, invoking her ongoing appeals and the Fifth Amendment. The hearing could compromise other potential investigations or pending civil cases. And what of the victims? Having their abuser's accomplice given a national podium, potentially distorting their trauma for political theater, could be a fresh injustice. The other side argues that the real story is being ignored. They point to the $120 million Epstein estate, the complex web of trusts and holdings, and ask why the focus isn't on seizing those assets for victim compensation. They see the hearing as a distraction, a shiny, scandalous object that draws attention away from a more thorough, less televised dismantling of Epstein's financial empire, which may be the true source of lasting power and protection for those involved. So who's right? Let's look at the evidence. Stepping back from the heated rhetoric, what do the facts and data suggest? The evidence paints a picture of a case defined by extraordinary scale and privilege. First, the financial scale is staggering. We're not talking about small sums. Evidence from Maxwell's trial showed Epstein paid her a salary of $75,000 for her management role. But the flows around them were immense. The $500,000 in cash found in a safe after Epstein's arrest, the $350 per hour paid to some of the young victims for massages that were a front for abuse. These aren't just numbers. They are markers of a commercialized, high-value operation. The $200 or $300 given to recruiters to bring new girls creates a pyramid of exploitation. When you see a 25-20% return on an investment, as one Epstein fund allegedly posted, it illustrates the kind of rarefied financial world that insulated him. Expert legal analysts note that congressional hearings have a mixed record on uncovering truth in criminal matters. They are excellent at surfacing public awareness and political pressure, but often poor at delivering courtroom admissible evidence. The recent Supreme Court denial of Maxwell's appeal in October 2025 under the current judicial framework also shows the legal system has, so far, found her conviction sound. This hearing operates on a parallel political track. International comparisons are telling. Look at Japan, which after the trauma of the Fukushima disaster is now restarting the world's largest nuclear plant, a pragmatic, if controversial, reversal based on energy needs. Germany, meanwhile, has shut down all its nuclear plants. Different societies, same problem, opposite solutions. The Maxwell hearing represents America's chosen method for confronting its own institutional trauma, the public political inquisition. The data suggests this is less about establishing new legal guilt and more about conducting a societal autopsy, with all the messiness that entails. The reality is more complex than either side admits. This hearing is likely both a necessary reckoning and a political circus. They are not mutually exclusive. What most people miss is the dual nature of the event. For victims and advocates, the mere act of forcing Maxwell to speak under oath, to confront her crimes in a public forum beyond the courtroom, has profound symbolic power. It denies her the silence she has hidden behind. It affirms that her crimes were not just against individuals, but against public trust. However, the uncomfortable truth is that the political theater is inevitable and, to some degree, useful. The media spotlight, which critics decry, is precisely what keeps the pressure on and prevents the story from being buried again. The partisan motives may be real, but they are also the engine driving the process forward in a system where pure, apolitical justice for the powerful has repeatedly failed. The nuance lies in managing the fallout. Will the hearing produce actionable names and evidence for law enforcement under the Trump administration's DOJ to pursue? Or will it simply be a fire hose of allegations that muddy the waters? The verdict on this hearing's success won't be in the headlines on February 10th, but in whether indictments or major asset seizures follow in the months after. So how does this affect ordinary people? It tests the foundational belief that no one is above the law. If this hearing reveals powerful names and leads to concrete consequences, it may restore a shred of faith in a system many see as rigged for the elite. If it becomes a partisan mudfight that ends with no further action, it will deepen cynicism. For the public, watch for specific details, names of other recruiters, explanations of financial transactions like the $874 daily expenses or the $120 million estate management, and any evidence of obstruction of justice by institutions. Watch the committee members. Are they asking focused, evidence-seeking questions, or are they delivering sound bites? The future prediction is volatility. Maxwell's testimony will create ripples, legal, political, and social. Some careers may end. New lawsuits will be filed. The global elite will be watching nervously. This is not an endpoint, it is a trigger. So we're left with the central debate, a path to justice for victims or a political weapon of mass distraction. The truth probably lies in the messy middle. Now I want to hear from you. What do you think? Drop a 1 if you believe this hearing is a crucial step for accountability. Drop a 2 if you think it's a purely political sham. Share this with someone who needs to see both sides of this story. Subscribe to Kenya News, update today for more breaking news.